Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to today's Wednesdays, Paranormal Wednesdays. I am Kim Russo from Celebrity Ghost Stories, and I am joined today by the amazing cast members of the Ghost Hunters. We have Richel Stratton and Kristen Lumen
Mhm.
joining me today, and we thought we would do something fun and something for a change to kind of cross each other in the paranormal night that everyone loves so much on the A&E channel. And we've all been getting questions. I am getting a lot of questions. Ghost Hunters is the lead-in show for Celebrity Ghost Stories, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Celebrity Ghost Stories is at 10 p.m. So we both have our methods of connecting to the spirit world. And I find the Ghost Hunters method fascinating. Although I don't use a bunch of equipment, except maybe my own antennas, I thought it would be so much fun to come on here and ask these ladies questions that I know a lot of the studio audience has similar questions, such as we both pretty much do the same thing, but we use different methods, correct?
Yeah.
Richel, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and
Yeah,
the
sure.
show?
Yeah, so my name's Rochelle, and I'm one of the paranormal investigators on Ghost Hunters. I also, this season, am helping a lot with tech. I'm learning the ropes on that. I knew tech before, but I didn't know it as well as Brandon, so we're transitioning. He's teaching me that, and Kristen, I hope I'm doing a good job, but
You're doing a great job. Call her the tech girl.
well,
Come on,
thanks.
tech girl, help me out. What are we doing next, tech girl?
I've been definitely dabbling in that and trying to, learn the equipment and how to set everything up. And so, yeah. And then the beautiful redhead down there, Kristen, you want to go ahead and say what you do?
Yes, I'm one of the investigators on Ghost Hunters. My background comes from more of their parapsychology field. I study the brain. I'm also a hypnotherapist in my day job. So it's really fascinating for me to go on these investigations and speak to the paranormal witnesses and discover their perception of their experience, as well as even with the other team members and see how they're affected by the paranormal. I'm constantly in a state of observing, and it's really amazing because I feel like every investigation I'm going out in the field and experimenting with not only trying to discover the paranormal, but also how the mind interacts with the paranormal and how the mind can also create paranormal experiences. And so to me, I think the mind is the most paranormal. And it's really fascinating to be able to watch that take place in every investigation.
Wow, I have some things in common with you, Kristen. I am not officially trained in the mind, but I actually have performed many hypnosis sessions with family members of mine, just as experiments. Do you mind me asking you a question? I don't know if this may be too deep of a question, but do you think there's a difference between the mind and consciousness itself?
Um, it's a very good question. And I do believe there is perhaps a part of consciousness when it comes to the paranormal world and the paranormal realm that continues on, which I have labeled and others have labeled spirit matter.
Mm.
And there is a form of consciousness that continues, and I do think that is separate than what we know of the physical brain, and that's what we're still trying to study and discover. Because when we go into these investigations, we also try to discover if it's a residual haunt or an intelligent haunt. An intelligent haunt is an entity that interacts with us, that is obviously aware of our presence. And that being so, obviously there's some form of consciousness there. And so I do believe that there is a consciousness separated from what we know of the brain.
Right. So the mind is synonymous with consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And the brain is just, I guess, what filters everything in the physical body.
Yes, sort of our machine.
Our machine, right?
However, yes, I do believe that there's a part of us that's unique to each individual. That's sort of our own spirit.
I believe that as well. I believe that. Richel, if you don't mind me asking you, you're learning about technology now with all the equipment?
I'm starting to, kind of take that role over a little bit with setting equipment up, making sure that it's ready to go for the investigations. Yeah. I knew equipment before. I knew the tech before. Every single piece of equipment is different, especially across the brands. So you have to learn like your specific cameras or your specific recorders. And it's just, yeah, it's a lot.
I welcome all questions from you ladies as well. But I wanted to know, Richel, for me, EVPs are fascinating. Right? So
absolutely love them.
For the average person watching, I would totally recommend, no matter what kind of contact you initiate, always, and I'm sure you guys do this, I don't know how much you show on television, protect yourself, ground yourself prior to making any contact. But is there an average piece of equipment that a person has hanging around their house that might pick up EVPs better than, any high-tech equipment that you can suggest?
Any type of audio recorder can pick up an EVP, and it's great. Like nowadays you have the voice recorders on your phone. And if you're limited on money and you can't go out and buy all this equipment because the equipment's expensive.
Yeah.
You can use a voice recorder on your phone and it'll pick up EVPs.
I heard that the digital part of it is highly sensitive. I had heard that.
Yeah. But
wow.
I absolutely love EVPs. Kristen can attest to this. I am an audio girl. Like that is what I like. That's the evidence I like to go over is audio, because I feel like I love visual stuff. It's always awesome to see things, but I feel like when you listen to audio and you get an EVP, sometimes you get more of an answer to who is there or what they're looking for, or if it's residual or something like that. I feel like it just gives you a little bit more information than something that's visual.
I've had clients send me a copy of their audio from private sessions that I've conducted over the years. And obviously during the session, nobody hears anything except my voice. But when they play the tape or recording back, so many have captured their loved ones speaking as I'm speaking.
Yeah.
And I know, they're just as shocked as I am, and they don't even have time to tamper with this recording. Some of them call me maybe an hour after the recording to let me hear this. And this has happened many times over the years. So I'm fascinated by what spirit can do, with their energy.
And get us some answers too. So, as you know, I study the mind and how the mind functions, and your gift is especially just fascinating to me. And I have researched when people with a gift such as yours have worked with an EEG machine where they, observed brain waves to discover if someone with psychic abilities had different activity in their brain. As opposed to somebody without. And they discovered that in the right cerebral hemisphere, there was more activity, different stuff going on with the prefrontal cortex. And I was wondering if you have ever if you've ever been hooked up to one of those machines and anybody has tested your brain waves while you were having an experience. And that goes along with my other question of when you have that experience, is it an all sensory experience? Is it sight, smell, sound, taste? Is it just visual? How do these events come upon you, or how do you experience them?
Great question, and it's funny you should ask that because I was just recently tested, maybe 3 months ago. I went to the University of Virginia, and there was this ongoing study that I didn't really get results yet back, although I did, but I'm not actually allowed to talk about them because this is still ongoing with other mediums in the study. But there was some fascinating findings that the laboratory has saw on the screen as they were actually watching me behind a wall. I couldn't see them, but they could see me. And the results that they were getting were indicative of me moving. They said that the only way that they could see the type of activity they had seen is if I were moving all over, but they saw I was still. And then it got to the point where there were certain sensations that I was feeling in my body that they were seeing on the screen. And the following day, they wanted to know if I was able to recreate that. And I said, I will just do what I do. I don't know if I can recreate it because I don't know what you're looking at. And I did what I did, my same procedure. I protected my field before I started tuning in. And I'm mostly visual, by the way, when I do these types of investigations. But when I go to haunted places like you guys go to, I get every kind of sensory, smell, taste, feel, visual. But I was getting a lot of visuals when I was tuning into the other realms, and they wanted me to make a notation verbally whenever I felt this sensation in my body. And I did. And they were able to kind of coincide at the same time seeing it visually on the screen. So hopefully one day these will be in the science journals and all of these results will be spoken about. And the scientist said to me, well, do you have any explanation as to what we're seeing? And I told them, of course I do. I'm connecting with other worlds. And they said to me, well, Kim, we're scientists. We can't go by that. I said, well, you will one day. And that's what we're all out to prove, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what really, I'm so proud of our team that we really try to collaborate the science with the paranormal. I mean, that's one of our main objectives, not only obviously to help our client, but that's why we try to use as much scientific equipment that's actually used really in another field that we're bringing into the paranormal field to use to back up what we're discovering with actual science.
Evidence is everything, right? Evidence is everything.
Completely.
That's why all of the equipment that we use is not designed to find ghosts. It's designed to measure environmental changes or pick up on photon events and things like that, because that's scientific, and other people that don't believe in ghosts can understand the science behind that. And that's what we're kind of trying to move towards. Like, we're not going to use pieces of equipment that, like, this is designed to find ghosts. We're using things like as simple as a motion detector. It's designed to sense motion. It's not designed to find a ghost. But if you put it in a room where no one's in there and it moves or goes off, like, it makes you think that it detected motion somehow. Now, is that a ghost? Not necessarily. It could have been a bug, or it could have been like a shadow passing by the window from outside sources. But at the same time, I think it holds some weight to it because we're using pieces of equipment that aren't designed to pick up on paranormal.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because regarding the bug or some other type of interference, but when you put all the equipment together and it kind of all says the same story, then you have to open your mind a little bit and say, hey, wait a minute, there's something here that is picked up by an electronic piece of equipment. And in my work that I do, my evidence has to speak for itself. The information has to pretty much be able to be validated in the moment. So that's why we connect a lot to their personal lives, the celebrities' personal lives. And then I am always in awe when after the investigation, and I'm watching the television in real time with everyone else, and I see what they've uncovered on, in the history and in the newspaper articles, I'm always blown away, because it's really based on faith.
Yeah.
Woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You spoke about a sensation that you experienced that they were able to measure with the EEG machine. Did you? Can you elaborate a little bit on that sensation? When you say sensation, what is that feeling?
I'll tell you what it feels like on my end. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't quite understand what they were seeing on their end. They were speaking in science-y terms that I didn't understand. And plus, they told me that there was not much they can talk about right now until they don't want us cross-contaminating the experiment. And I don't want to.
Yes.
To me, it's wasting my time if they do that.
Yes.
But the best way I can explain it to you is if I'm sitting, and any yoga person knows rising your energy field from the base of your spine, which is, they call it the Kundalini.
Yeah.
I can actually feel the energy rising from the base of my spine all the way up through my body. It's not chills. It's different from chills. It's almost like I'm getting electrocuted in a moment, in a split
Like a tingly
second.
feeling, almost like electricity, tingly feeling.
Electricity, but I feel like I'm going to shoot out of the top of my head.
Okay.
Like as if I'm rising up, like I'm about to take off somewhere. And then it kind of just stops when it gets here. But I know it doesn't stop. It kind of goes out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like an antenna. But that's a great question, because sometimes my whole body shakes when this happens.
Yeah.
When the vibration is raising. But that's what the medium has to do in order to connect to the higher vibrating molecules.
Yes.
When we shed the physical body, we're vibrating at a much faster speed of light, the energy itself, the field. So you guys are big on fields, because that's what you try to detect on all of your equipment, all the fields, right? I mean, what was your best evidence you've ever captured? You guys have a favorite?
I will say my personal favorite, like visual, was Fort Stanton, that shadow figure that we caught in the TB hospital with the EMCCD camera.
I saw that.
That camera's amazing. And the crazy thing about that was, I have a theory of what I think happened, which I know it sounds stupid, but they seen someone walk past those double doors. Okay. So Brian, and like, he went out to see what was going on. Well, I think whoever was in there thought that everyone had left. So like, they peeked around the corner, but they didn't realize Brandon was standing back behind that camera. And then they saw him and kind of was like, oh shit, and like backed out. That's what I feel like, because it looked like someone peeked and then like immediately got out of the way. And the funny thing was that Brandon didn't see it in person. Like, we didn't see it until we reviewed the footage, and then we caught it off on the side, which I think that I just love that camera so much.
I liked when you guys did the recreation of it, where that was so helpful to see. Well, let's see if we peek how it will look, and it didn't look anything like it. You saw the whole body of your crew member, your teammate. Yeah. That was a good thing to do. I like when you kind of try to disprove it and going about it like a skeptic would, because then that helps the skeptics that were thinking, oh, that was just one of the crew, the teammates. But so that was good that you did that.
Well, thank you.
No, I like that part. That was great. And I find that those old hospitals, man, they are, I mean, I went to some places like that, especially the Penhurst Asylum, which is a hospital as well. It was like for the mind, but unstable. With the atrocities that took place in those hospitals, I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're haunted.
Mental health care system then was very unfortunate.
Totally.
They didn't understand, and they treated them as if they were inhuman. But at that point, they thought in a way that they were they believed that they were somewhat inhuman, that they couldn't feel feelings or fear or hurt the way that, people without those sort of conditions could. And
Wow.
so they treated them like that. And it's
Yeah.
very sad.
And I believe a lot of these spirits are sort of still there trying to kind of tell their story. And they
Hmm.
do. I believe they do tell their story. Have you guys ever worked with a medium live on your investigations?
I
I
have
I
before.
have not.
Oh
Yeah,
no, Michelle, you haven't? And
Nope.
Kristen, you have.
I have. Yes. I'm, I'll be honest, I'm very skeptical about the field.
Yeah.
Um, However, those that I met that I find to be the real deal, I'm, I kind of fan out because I'm just so excited about being able to work with somebody who, as I keep referring to, has this gift. However, I have worked with clients that don't feel like it's a gift
Yeah.
and have come to me to try to create sort of defense mechanisms or a way to shut it off when they need to, which is another question I had for you.
Yeah.
That do you have some sort of procedure that you go through to try to stop it when you need some peace? Can you control it?
In the beginning, when I first started learning about this gift, I do
Hmm.
I do consider it a gift
Hmm.
for the most part. I will only not consider it a gift if it ever harms people. But to this point, it has only helped and healed. So to me, that's a gift. Yeah, and what I had to learn to do over time, in the beginning, I did not know how to turn it off. So voices were constantly flooding in. People, random souls were telling me how they passed away, actually what town and state they live in, and the names of their parents that I should contact to tell them they're okay.
Mhm.
And I had this overwhelming amount of guilt as a mom, like how do I not find these mothers and fathers and tell them these things? But then I myself was thinking how crazy this sounds, and it just, I know I'm a skeptic by nature, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe it
Mhm.
myself. Anyway, as time went on, what I needed to realize is it's no different than having a child around you, and when you're on the telephone, and you can actually pay attention to your phone call and at the same time know that the child is tugging on you, but you just don't choose to listen in that moment.
Okay.
Okay.
And sometimes they go away and sometimes
Uh-huh.
they don't.
Uh-huh.
Just like a child, we're like, once you're off the phone, they're like, okay, mommy, now can you do
Yeah.
this for me or that for me? But you have to have really good boundaries, even as what you guys do.
Mhm.
You can't take any crap, as in plain English.
Yes.
You gals look tough. You have to have some kind of tough energy about you, and be convicted, and have borders.
Mhm.
I feel you both are, but Richel, if you don't mind me saying this to you, and I hope you don't feel like I'm invading your space, but I feel you're much more sensitive. And when they use that word sensitive for mediums, you could probably go to that next level if you chose to. I feel that you have to be more careful in your approach, because I do feel that you're an empath, which you
Mhm.
take on the energy of who's there in the space.
That,
Mhm.
yeah, that, I mean, out of the whole team, I would say that I'm probably more sensitive than some. Um, and the empath thing, definitely. I pick up on emotions when we go into buildings. I don't like to put that out there, typically, because if you're not in this field and you tell someone you're sensitive or you get feelings or you're an empath, they automatically think you're psychic. And I'm like, I don't think I'm psychic. I can't predict anything. I can tell you how I'm feeling. And I can tell you that they're not necessarily my feelings, but I'm having we've been on investigations where I've been aggravated. Like, I know that we went into this one room and I was with Brian and Grant. And I love Brian and Grant. Brian's my best friend. I think Grant is wonderful. And they're great guys. We went into this room. I immediately was so irritated with them, and they didn't do anything. I
Yeah.
didn't want them in there. I was mad. we left the room, it went away. We went back in the room, it came back. So I had them leave without like, and I stayed in the room, and I flat out just told whoever was there, like, listen, you didn't want them in here. I told them to leave. They're gone. Like, what's going on? And when I had said that, the data logger started going off, and it hadn't been going off the whole entire time.
Uh-huh.
But it's just like, sometimes I know that I've cried a couple times, and that also, like, I typically don't cry. Like, it takes a lot for me to cry. And I don't know why, but like in my everyday life, pretty much I can't remember the last time I cried over something about my life.
Right,
But,
right.
but when we go into investigations, I get this overwhelming like feel of sorrow or happiness or something, and I can't
Yeah.
control it.
Well, that's why I use the word sensitive as opposed to psychic, which all psychics are sensitives. But the
Uh-huh.
point is that you can utilize that ability to see if there is another location that you are feeling drawn to. You
Well, I
know,
know that that's
right?
what we typically do. Like, I won't say I want to go in this room because I feel this. I'll typically just tell like one of my teammates, I'll be like, hey, Kristen, let's go over here. And she knows what that means. She knows, like, I want to go over there because I'm feeling pulled that way, not
Yeah.
because I just don't want to be in this room.
Okay.
So, it's one of those things that like the whole team knows my little cues, like, so I guess you would say, so that I don't have to say I'm feeling this, because sometimes it's backed up and sometimes it's not. And it just depends on what's going on, I think.
Right, right. I know. Well, that's what I teach my students. It's like it's okay to say that you are more sensitive than most. It's okay to own that. Doesn't mean most people get nervous and say, "Well, I don't want to start doing readings and whatnot." But it's not even about that. It's just about the intuition.
Yeah.
And Kristen, you're like amazing. Like Kristen, you're the way I read your energy, like with boundaries. Like, no, I don't feel people are going to come and kind of mess with you as easily. And when I say that, I mean the ghosts, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Those people.
Yeah. And I think you need, honestly, I think you need on a team like yours, you need both. You need the person who the little child is going to feel more secure around because they know this person's a little bit softer or more sensitive. I don't mean that in a negative way, because believe me, I can be both.
Yes.
But it's a matter. I guess are you both in our everyday lives? We can be both, right? We have to make a conscious effort to not allow anyone to bully us.
Yes.
But that goes with the spirit world too. They're people, right? They lived on the earth. Most of the intelligent ones, anyway.
Yes.
I know that the thing that it was funny because we actually when we investigated Madison Seminary, it was an intense investigation for me and Brian, like a lot of emotion. It had me down on the ground, like not being able to do anything because it was so intense what I was feeling. And I know a little bit later, I went up to get the camera and I had Brian come up with me. I'll be honest, I was after our experience up there, I didn't want to go up there by myself. I was scared. I was like, okay, because whatever was up there had brought me to my knees. Like, so I need backup in case something happens again. And we were bringing the camera down, and as we heard a woman. And Brian laughed because I flat out stopped and said, no. I said, we tried to talk to you earlier and you weren't playing nice. You weren't very nice to us up here. I said, so we will come back tomorrow and talk to you, but we're done for tonight. And he was laughing. He's like, you just scolded a ghost. I was like, I did scold a ghost, but when we were up here earlier, they weren't being very friendly to us. And I just want them to know, like, that's not how we're going to, like, I want to help you, but you have to be willing to help yourself too. And like taking down team members left and right because you're upset is not how we are going to be able to help each other.
Right. Well, it's a matter of taking control
Yeah.
of your investigation. And now I know you ladies know that real demons exist, and that's outside of the scope of the intelligent ones that have lived in a human body. Have you guys ever encountered something really demonic that you just really maybe didn't want to discuss, or even maybe brought something home with you?
Um, Chris.
I have yet to have that sort of encounter that I know of. I've felt more uncomfortable in places, or that perhaps the energy felt a bit more threatening, but
Okay. Yeah.
never without those demonic uh, aspects to it, to where I felt we were definitely dealing with something unearthly.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've heard, and I've actually heard, when you hear like a growl, that
Mm-hmm.
could very much be demonic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Michelle, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I agree with Kristen. I don't think I've come across anything demonic yet. We've come across, I think, people that aren't very nice, but I believe that they probably weren't very nice in their real life either, like when they were living. So I've come across that. I have brought something home with me before, and I just kindly tell them, you're not allowed to be here. Go back to where you came from, and I will come back and see you later, but you're not allowed to be in my home with my family because I don't want you scaring them. And that works. They go away. You just have to be stern about it. Kind of like you were saying, as a mom, you have to be soft, but you also have to be stern. And I think you still have to do that when you're talking to spirits too.
Yeah, right. Because in my work, I guess with any relationship we have in life, people can sense your fear, and bullies feed off people's fears. And if they're I find a lot of these entities really just want to be left alone in the dark in these locations. They don't have an opinion one way or another. They just want their space. Leave me alone. I'm not bothering you. Don't bother me. um, and I feel like I have to tread lightly with that, because I never want to infringe on anyone's free will, even if they're in the afterlife. But also, that's not their natural habitat. It's not natural for them to hang around, a cold, abandoned, moldy building for thousands of years. So gently, and I've seen you guys, I've seen how you approach, which I am so happy about, because so much of it is similar to my approach. Even the men, I like these big teddy bears who look intimidating, but they come in peace. And I respect that you guys do that. I feel like sometimes when we get frightened, sometimes we curse, or we don't know what, we scream, we act irrational, right? I've done that. But that's just our human part of us when we get frightened. But we have to remain calm, as you know, because you can't fake fear. They can feel the fear, right?
Yeah, and I always think fear also becomes the block. So when there is fear taking place, just like if you're taking an exam, when you become fearful or anxious, a lot of times you can't remember all of the answers that you know. And so sometimes I do find in an investigation, I feel that if there is too much fear there, you can possibly block what could be a wonderful connection or interaction.
I could not have said it better myself, and like I said, I'm so happy that you guys are the lead in to Celebrity Ghost Stories. I'm so excited. Tonight's Wednesday, right? We have a Wednesday lineup, a Paranormal Wednesdays on A&E. You guys are on 9 p.m. Eastern.
That's correct.
Celebrity Ghost Hunters, that is. Celebrity Ghost Stories is followed with me as the host. Tonight we have Paula Abdul, the music icon.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah.
Excited.
I'm so excited to share our journey. It was a bit emotional, very raw, very real. You'll be seeing her like you've never seen before tonight at 10 p.m.
Oh, wow.
I personally tweet live with the the audience at the Happy Medium, live at 10. How about you guys? You tweet?
Yes. I tweet as well. I'm at Stratton Richel. And
Kristen Lumen.
What's your handle?
Kristen Lumen 1.
All right.
I had to do one because somebody else had Kristen Lumen. So I'm not saying I'm number 1. It's Kristen Lumen.
Yeah, you can say that. Own it. Why not?
Kristen Lumen.
I can't wait to see what you guys have lined up tonight. And
tonight we have a really cool episode. We're in middle of the woods in this camp that these two very artistic women started. That was very before their time. It's a performing arts camp, and they've had all these experiences to where the parents are afraid for their children, and so they called in us to come and investigate. And it's a really exciting investigation, and it is pretty spooky because we're out there in the middle of the woods, and it's snowy, and it was a really exciting experience. We got some great evidence.
I will be honest, it's my favorite location that we've been to.
Oh,
I loved it.
I'll be there. One last question for you guys. Do you sleep during the day? Because I know you're up all through the night.
Vampires.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we get back to our rooms probably around 5 o'clock morning.
Sometimes the birds are chirping. So.
Yeah, and then I usually sleep or try to sleep till at least 11 or so. I try to keep a similar, not sleep all during the day because I have kids. So when I'm back home, I have to be able to get up and get them to school. But then we go back out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So sleeping during the day,
You guys are great. Oh my God.
I've always been a night owl, so it worked, it kind of already worked with the schedule I already had going. So
wow. Not me. I need my sleep.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
I hope everybody tunes in tonight to see, and maybe we will come up again with some more of your questions in future weeks. So this has been so much fun for me. Great. The first time I'm talking to you ladies.
I know. I was really excited to meet you. We have mutual friends, and they only have the most wonderful things to say about you. So I was really looking forward to this conversation. And
it's been too long, too overdue.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys. I will see you on the television tonight.
Okay.
All right.
And on Twitter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. See you soon.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.